We have, as a gallery, we've been working in the indigenous art space now for approximately 10 years. And it's been a great journey, and it's been a great learning experience. And recently there was news which I'm very excited about, which I think a lot of you got on your emails and on your phones, but you'll have to suffer through it again just because I'm so excited about it. Could you just do that? So this was an acquisition of some of the works by our artists that's been done by the Art Institute of Chicago. Santosh Kumar Das's work. This is a seminal work of his which was here for his solo show in 2019. That's him. Then a work by Mayur and Tushar Vaida. They're they're Worli practitioners, that's them. In fact, they have like murals happening in Bombay right now.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, yes. So, thank you. And today I'm very happy to have with me two people who I greatly admire. Lekha Poddar, the founder of Devi Art Foundation, and Sanjoy Roy, founder of Teamwork Arts. So both of them have had an impact on a lot of things that I do and the way I do them. With Sanjoy, we've been partnering at the Jaipur Literature Festival for the Ojas Art Award, where we've been recognizing artists in different fields, like in different genres, like Kawan, Madhubani, Mithila, and that's been a great starting point for us in structuring something where we're able to find the best artists to work with. And Lekha Poddar needs no introduction. Founder of Devi Art Foundation has been at the helm of collecting art of all types, of all kinds, and more than anything else, he's also very engaged with the artists and the collection, and is always ready to share her knowledge with whoever goes seeking. So, which is a quality that I greatly admire. So, over to the both of you, and I shall come back in a little bit once we are running out of time.
Thank you so much, Anubhav. And I think what a lot of you may not know is Anubhav is also a fellow trustee at the Salam Balak Trust. And the way I encountered Anubhav in his early years is he had mentored Vicky Roy, a young photographer whose collection then went on to populate most museums across the world. He's a street kid, decided to take on photography because his then teacher, A.K. Tabari, said when he was in the 10th standard that, aur kya karoge? You know, I mean, studies is not your great potential. What do you want to do? And at that point of time, one of our earlier kids, Haran, had become a very successful photographer and had become a role model. So Vicky decided to become a photographer. And then Anubhav and their then foundation mentored Vicky. He went on to be selected as one of 4 young people to record the rebuilding of the World Trade Center in New York. So they got each of these 4 young people got 6 months as an assignment time, and his work today sits on the top floor of the World Trade Center. And of course, he's done some seminal work and he's traveled. So Anubhav has been mentoring a lot of these artists, and even the collection here has been amazing. So I think we need to thank people like Anubhav and Lekha for doing what they do, as we do for many of you who are here, who are gallerists, and we know how difficult the arts are in today's day and age. Which brings me to Lekha. Lekha, you know, given who you are and given the way that, you know, your background, one would have assumed that your instant inheritance and collection and your eye would go towards the greats. And yet you chose from a very early time to sort of look at traditional art across the country. Tell us a little bit, I think everybody would love to know a little bit about that journey. What is it that caught your eye, and why these forms of art? And a little story about them before we go to the presentation, and then you can tell us about some of how you found what.
So I think living in Delhi, we were lucky to have the Crafts Museum. Although it started in the 80s, and we were friends with all the directors, curators, and everybody. So it was a privilege going, and in those days, the crafts bazaar that is there still used to really sort of bring in the masters of the tradition. But it's a tradition, if I may digress a little bit and turn around and say that this is a tradition which is actually not supposed to have been in our hands as we see it today. It was in the villages. It was
on walls.
On walls. It was a tradition of going, from season to harvest, to fertility, to religion, births, deaths, and whatever it is. As it often happens in many countries in the world, there were many droughts, especially Bihar, which was very bad. And from what I understand, that it was Mrs. Pupul Jaikar who went to Bihar and saw the condition there, came back and told the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Gandhi, that, it's really bad and we have to do something for helping these people. And the one thing they did have was the art that they had on their walls. I mean, it wasn't even art. For them, it was a ritual. So it was decided that they would somehow be given paper made to learn a completely different scale, because they were painting on walls and with possibly local colors and natural pigments and things like that. And they were given brush, they were given colors, and asked to paint on paper. And from what I heard, that HHEC, which was cottage industries, was part of HHEC. Mrs. Jaikar was the chairman. So she said she gave instructions that every artwork that came out from Madhubani, because that was really the big district where there were different tribes, but different kinds of arts that were, they had different hands, So everything that came out from there had to be bought by HHEC. Even if their stores filled up, they could not refuse that. That's how I think we people in the urban centers, in the urban cities, got a chance to see these marvelous works, which what I think should be called the living traditions.
So, Lekha, there's one criticism, and I think many of the curators and museum people here, that what this actually did was created a commodity and made this kind of art, which was, as you're saying, a living tradition, which was created and in many cases then destroyed because the event finished or the wedding finished or the ceremony finished, or so you erased it and you put cow dung on top of it. But today, as we are seeing around us, it sits on our wall, it's decorative. Do you feel that the artist has lost some of their soul because of that, or do you feel that this is a progression and it's a valid progression?
I think it's a valid progression. If they had possibly just sat and worked on their walls all their life and had known no better, then that's where they would have been. But since they were brought out into the urban centers, their works were being shown in different venues. And we also have to remember that very soon after the 70s, especially after the emergency, we had the Festivals of India. Most of these artists were also taken to various countries and their works were shown. So it's not that they were sitting in their villages anymore. They were already getting exposed. And yes, the traditional art gallery world did not accept them because theirs was naive art. I assume it didn't fall into any ism, so whether it was modernism or contemporary, this thing, or whatever it was. So it had been kept out of the gallery world for a long time. And I'm glad that, Anubhav is here. He's doing this fantastic job of giving a space to them to actually become, I think, come to the same level as what contemporary art is. They haven't reached there. Hopefully one day, but we are getting there slowly. I mean, there is Jankar, who has made his mark along with the contemporary artists. And I hope this progresses too, because there's immense talent.
Well, look at Das, look at Mayur, etc. But, you know, Lekha, you started collecting these forms of art even before it was remotely sexy. I mean, it's only come into its age now. So what is it that sort of, and I know that while you were also collecting forts and the Nimranas of the world, which has now become the Nimranas of the world, but a lot of people must have looked at you and said, "Kya kar rahi hai ye?"
I don't think anybody knows, but I mean, how does it matter? You know, so if you went to the Crafts Museum, if you went to one stall and you bought one work, it was literally for 200 rupees or 300 rupees. They were so starved of money that 10 other people would come and chase you to say, "Ki nahi, hamara bhi kaam le lijiye, hamara bhi kaam le lijiye."
Buy our work, buy our work.
Yeah, you know, just buy our work. And it would be like, okay, I mean, we were lucky that we could afford that 200 and 400 and 600 and however many this thing. But, you know, they would literally come to the car and just open the car door and say, "Please, please take what we have. We'll give it to you for less." So that was the situation. So it wasn't a question of of it being sexy or anything like that. It was, for them, it was survival. And for us, it was like, okay, you know, you bought one, you bought another 4 more, how does it matter? You know, it will just sit in, I mean, maybe it will sit in the cupboard, maybe you'll give it as a gift or whatever it was. And really, that really was what it was.
You know, 40 years later or whatever, since Lekha started collecting, the sad thing is during Corona, this is exactly the same thing that happened. The desperation that the basic artisan had across villages of India wanting to sell their work to survive was absolutely devastating to a large extent. But Lekha, maybe we can go through a few of the slides and maybe also tell us, I don't know whether it's the first piece of work that you ever collected. Is it part of this collection?
Yeah,
but if
it is. So let me start with the beginning, from the beginning, to say this is, I'm not an academic. And I'm merely, yes, I love art and I collect, sometimes just with what my eyes sort of interest me. And that's what we have always done. So what I'm going to present to you, please don't ask me academic questions because I would not be able to answer them. I can possibly tell you 1 or 2 small things. What I would love to tell you is some stories along with the way the collection happened and what happened, you know, I mean, with the things, the way it progressed. And all of it is not going to lead us from the traditional to the contemporary, but some of it will. And what I do think is that if these fantastic artists, whatever you might call them, you know, whether they're people who just sort of follow their tradition or whatever, I think if they're just given a little guidance, they go a long way. They really can create miracles. So I'll just start
and also what you'll see is, in some cases, how she commissioned some work and how you saw the juxtaposition between the traditional and you looked at it in the contemporary context, where the visual is contemporary and it's today, and she'll give you a story on that one.
Yeah, so I'm going to just tell you all stories. I'm not going to turn around and say that, you know, this belonged to this and this is the great and this is not the great stuff or whatever it is. So bear with me and we will just possibly go through a journey, you know. So this is Bengal Patachitra, and this is the way they traditionally, this is a very traditional iconography of a Bengal Patachitra, which is a long scroll about, could be even 6 to 7 foot long. And this is one of the famous stories of Mansa Devi. So they themselves, the artists themselves, you know, I mean, people who are painting this, they themselves started to contemporize some of their works. This is on tsunami, and this was not something that was commissioned. This was their own idea. And when tsunami happened, obviously they were very badly affected because it must have hit Bengal pretty hard. I remember Tamil Nadu, I don't know how much it hit Bengal, but this is something that they saw on televisions, they saw on newspapers, and they started to make this themselves.
And the interesting thing is that the year of the tsunami, so what they say is the vehicle on which the goddess Durga comes every year predicates the weather of that year. So this last year in 2022, for example, the goddess came on a boat, on a nauka, which meant that it would rain, which it did incessantly. And the same thing happened at the tsunami time. So what you see, the bowl, the fish, or the bowl march is pretty much that as well.
And you must also realize that these scrolls are not to be viewed just as an artwork or as something that you would be just, seeing the visual. They actually come with the song.
Yeah, it's a drama.
It's a drama.
So
they unfold it slowly, and then the singers, the people who have made the work, sing with it.
Yeah, tell you the story.
Telling the story. So what we see, what we miss by and large, is the second part of it. Because when we see these, we see it in isolation. So we have already sort of, distanced its original sort of concept of storytelling and singing along with unraveling the scroll. And this is another guy from Bengal called Kalam Patwa, and it's got an interesting story. Dr. Jyotendra Jain, who was the director of Crafts Museum, called me one day and said, "You've got to come and see this young man who's come from Bengal." He actually worked in the post office in his little village. And he had a lot of these artworks. So Dr. Jain said that, please buy some. He needs the money. So I bought a couple of them. And then, of course, it's the usual story, can you buy some more, this, that, and the other. So I said, okay, can you do something new? And I was telling him, I said, Calcutta has a lot of ambassador cars. I said, my family produces ambassador cars. I said, will you be able to make some on the ambassador cars? So this is what he produced. And I'm not turning around and saying that, take away from your own form, identity, your own, genre of work. But they're so receptive that I never saw what the drawing was.
And so cheeky. The second one is so cheeky. The husband or whoever sort of eyeing the lady in the short skirt. And she's like, I want to take this beaten to you.
Yeah, because that's a very traditional way of a putt painting. And those putt paintings the paintings used to be sold outside the Kalighat temple. And this is a very traditional one. And now this man is eyeing this woman in a dress. So she's got the stick up to say, okay, I'm going to fix you. Yeah.
And it's a jhadu, chhata. Yeah, chhata, it's not a jhadu, it's a chhata. Chhata is, what's it called? Bamboo sticks.
It's called Pati Patni aur Wo.
Pati Patni.
Yeah,
और उसमें लिखा है WHO.
And look at these people sitting on top of the car and romancing. It's fabulous. Yeah. And it's really the genre of the paint that they do. Now, of course, a lot more people have started to do this, and a lot more have started to make contemporary stuff. But it's very interesting that you just guide them a little bit, and then they take off on their own, and they do newer sort of stories instead of just doing the traditional, the babu and the wife,
And what was interesting is that in Bengal, so in the east, unlike in the north where you go for your wedding on a horsey, in the east you went in an ambassador car. Like the bongs don't go on a horsey, they go in a gadi. So this was the Hindustan Motors ambassador car was the gadi in which the groom arrived at the wedding. So
we come to Bihar, and as I was saying to you that, that there was a great drought in Bihar in the 70s, and I assume these are the works that the ladies there painted, and some of them got very famous. There was Sita Devi, there was Mansa Devi, there was Ganga Devi, and this was the first time I think they were using color. First of all, they had to deal with a new medium, which was paper. Then they had to learn how to use a brush. Then they had to compose. And then they had to use these colors. And they had, I think, only 2 or 3 colors. They were given pink. They had, or maybe that was a natural color from there. They had the indigo. In some of them, they're also yellow. And then, of course, the outline is just with black. So these were the few colors that they had. And I do think I bought these from Cottage Industries. And I was showing them to Jyotinder a couple of months ago. And I was saying, I said, tell me what this is about, because even I don't know. And he said, these are the very early ones. Please don't give them away to anyone, or keep them with yourself. So I said, okay. So these are the early ones. So here is a story. So if we go back, yeah. So here is a story of another of their famous artists called Bawa Devi. And in the top right-hand side, on the main picture, you will see a guy. He was Bhaskar Kulkarni. He was the man who was giving them paper. He is there taking a photograph of the people who have come to work. And this is Madhubani. And then you go further. This is their journey when they were possibly brought to Delhi and taken abroad.
Festival of India.
For the Festivals of India. So they had to first cross the river. She's made me this 12 paintings of this whole journey. I'm just showing a few. So they had to cross the river. They crossed on the boat. Then they went on a train. And they had never been out in a train. So this was the first journey. And they had been on a train. Then they were in a bus. And they was talking about, that how, generally speaking, they would be in a horse cart. But here they are in a bus. And they're going somewhere. And look at them, the whole lot of them on top, and flying the flag and everything. And last of all, then they're in a plane. And they're being taken abroad. So this is their imagination. Yes, she told me this story one time, and I told her, I said, will you make me a whole series of this? And these are large canvases she made. And the story is hers. It's not something that I turned around and told her to make this thing. But yes, I did commission her to say that I would love to get this story from you on a painting. This is Chhattisgarh. This is a very interesting story. The artist is now called Ganga Devi Bhatt. She, as normal, as it happens in villages, she was married, husband was alcoholic, 2 daughters, no money. How do I bring up these 2 girls? An artist called Navjot Altaf works in Bastar. Ganga Devi comes from Bastar. And obviously, because Navjot was working in that area, she must have come across Ganga Devi, who was telling her this story of her life. So she said to her, paint. And she said, but I don't know how to paint. I don't know anything. So she said, okay, I'm going to give you paper, and I'm going to give you some colors, and you do what you want. But she said, what am I going to do? So she said, tell your life story. Tell whatever you've been going through. So here are the 2 daughters, and there must be other people who are, working in the fields and things like that. And this is, generally speaking, the life story that she had. This work was shown in an exhibition in Australia called The Edge of Desire. And I had seen these works. I hadn't really seen these works, but I had heard about them. That exhibition traveled from Australia to New York and then came to Delhi, and it was shown at the National Museum, I think. And when I went to see that exhibition, I saw these works. And I inquired. I said, can I get in touch with the artist? And somebody gave me her number. And I called her, and I asked her, I said, are these works available, not available? And she said, yeah, they're available. So I said, I thought that she would be, be charging me through the nose. And when she gave me the price of one work, I just turned around and said, okay, I'll buy the whole thing. So you will just see the next image as to how this was. This is these are about, I don't know, 30 or 40 works. Some of them are double-sided, some of them are single-sided. Now look at the intelligence of the woman. When she was at the National Museum, there was a seminar after that, as always happens after an exhibition. And everybody who was academic and who was a critic and who was the artist and whatever it is, they all had their conversation and everybody spoke. And she was possibly the last. And somebody in the audience turned around and said to her that, these are your works, you have painted your life story, now what? And her simple reply was that as long as I have a life, I have a story to tell. No? So when we install these works for our exhibition on Vernacular, some of these works have numbers, some, of course, them are signed, some have something written on it, and we didn't know what to do, how to install this. So Kanupriya, who was, somebody was talking about, she called her up and said to her, Ganga Devi, how do we install these works? Is there a sequence? How do you want this done? What is it? She fired her and said to her, she said, do you think life is lived in a sequence? Do what you want. Install it the way you think it is right. I mean, that kind of, profundity and philosophy, really. I mean, we were all so taken aback that, we just said, yeah. And she used to, then she considered me her friend. And she would call me up at any hour and every hour. And she wouldn't know that I was traveling or anything. And suddenly I'm abroad and she's calling me up at 2 o'clock in the morning because it's, 7 o'clock in India. Acha, to behan ji, fir aur kya kaam karna hai? And I would say, no, Ganga Devi, I'm traveling abroad just now. We can't speak now. I'm sleeping. I said, we will speak to you later. So we got into some conversations. She got me something completely different made, which I will show you later on. Gujarat. This is a Jogi family. Another very interesting story about this is, these guys are also bards. They would go from village to village singing. Another artist called Hakusha saw them somewhere and said, what do you all do? So they said, okay, we just sing. So he said, well, when you sing, you're going from village to village. You must be seeing a lot of people, meeting a lot of people, doing a lot of things. They said, yeah, we do. So he said, then why don't you paint them? And they said, well, we are singers. We don't know anything about paint or any such thing. So he said, okay, I'm going to give you paper and I'm going to give you ink, pen. So paint. So do whatever you all feel like. So this is what they started to do. And 4 or 5 of them in the family work. And they do separate kinds of work, different kinds of work. But also just look at this. This is their imagination. I think it's of a train station.
Train station, yeah.
I mean, from not knowing what to do. Look at the genius of this, And they are such simple people. They come and just sit and then just carry on working and, without any, any hullabaloo or anything like that. But for somebody who's a singer to turn around and to start painting, and I think it's quite phenomenal. I think that's just the fantastic thing about this whole genre of living tradition, that they come up with these ideas themselves. Yes, sometimes you do have to push them. That's if you want something radical done, but they are pretty good at what they do, I think. This is from Himachal. So this is a very traditional rumal, what they call, because it used to cover the thals, or I don't know what they used to cover, but pretty much always on a Krishna theme. And this is in cotton, which I think you don't get now. This is another lady called Lalita Vakil, who used to work with, I think she was invited by the Delhi Crafts Council to do some work and asked to do something new. So instead of working on cotton, she moved to tussar silk And then she started to create her own stories of Krishna. And it's quite an interesting narration, you know, of the way she has unfolded the story at both ends. You know, Samudra Manthan, and here there's Krishna from birth to with the gopis. And then, we carry on. I met another young Chamba Rumal lady, you know, I mean, at the Crafts Museum. I mean, this is only about last year. And I said to her, I said, listen, I can't bear to take another Chamba Rumal. I've got plenty of them. I don't want anything. I said, will you do something new? She said, yes, of course. So I went off and I got these designs. I got them printed. And these are just jali designs because, I mean, I didn't know what to do. I mean, whether she could cope with it, if I gave her something more complex or anything. So I just got some jali designs printed. And I said to her, I said, would you like to do this? So she said, yeah. So she came, she took them home, and I gave her the cloth. And I said, yes, please do use this. But I said, please don't use multicolors. Because
So this is this a stitch pattern or
it's
is
a
this
stitch pattern.
This is a
No,
stitch
no,
pattern?
no,
Or
the
this
whole
a
thing
cut?
is stitched. No,
Yeah.
no, no, it's a stitch pattern. So it is the Himachali stitch. It is not a Chamba Rumal, but it is just the stitch that they do traditionally, which is what she has then done on these textiles, and they look rather beautiful. I've got two up just now. This is a very traditional Jharkhand tradition of the tribal woman artist from Hazaribagh. They are seen sometimes, they are not seen sometimes. I don't know. Anubhav, do you come across them often?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have Justin Imam, that family, the Imam family.
Right.
They kind of revived the whole tradition of Hazaribagh.
But I find them very, very beautiful, raw, and absolutely magical. So Karnataka, I'm just doing it state-wise so that it's just easier for everybody to understand. Otherwise, it becomes a real hodgepodge. This is the traditional way that they do miniatures in Karnataka. And I met this guy called Vijay Hagaragundi, and I said to him, I said, I'm sorry, I said, but I can't really have these works, you know, with so much color. I think I'll be colorblinded and I won't be able to sleep at night. So I said, can you do something simple? He said, yes, of course. And then I'll just show you what he does just in black and white. Just sketches. I mean, they're in ink. It's still the traditional, imagery. It's still not far away from what they're generally speaking do, but just taking that color away just makes it so simple and contemporary. I don't have much from Kerala, but I just wanted to show this, that there's a mural, you know, this is the technique of mural painting, and this is done on a canvas.
And also the theme.
Look at the theme on the Communist Party, struggle. This is a very interesting story. This is literally this year, April. It was so hot, art fair. And I think one day I walked around to the Crafts Museum after that, and I saw this guy sitting there from Kerala, and this is the kind of work he was doing. And I couldn't even sit for 5 minutes because it was so hot. So I merely, but they work with I think it's Sikri work, what it's called. It's not Sikri actually, it's because Sikri comes from Bihar. This is a straw, this is really rice husk they take, cut it,
Fine.
so fine,
Yeah.
and then they paste it all together. So I was there for like literally 5 minutes, and they have this black cloth. I said, great. I said, can you make this? And they have, this was a simpler one. They have the gods and the goddesses and the Jesus and the Ganesh and this and that. I said, can you make something very simple? So he said, what? I said, cut out all this and just make the hillside that you've got, you know, the little hills at the back. So you will see what he's done. So this is what he made for me. The one on the right is moonlight, and you can just see the shadows that he has made in the water. And then this one is, of course, sunshine, so he's got birds flying. And then I said to him, I said, can you make it even simpler than this? And can you just make some of those hillsides that you've got there? So the next ones you'll see that this is what he did.
But if you were to show this in Japan today, it would be seen to be completely contemporary.
Absolutely.
and
Look at
today's
this.
work.
Look at this.
Yeah.
And this is all rice husk. Cut, split, cut, joined together, and just, stuck. And the story, I mean, I must tell you this, that I got them for literally no price. He asked me what, I asked him, I said, how much do you want? He said 5,000 rupees. I said, here's the 5,000 rupees, please take it. And then for whatever the subsequent works, I gave him the same amount. I said, you want more, please take whatever you want. I think one piece got left behind. And somebody came to the Crafts Museum, somebody from abroad, looked at the work and paid him 20,000 for it.
Wow.
I was so thrilled to hear that. I said, I think I'll call him up in the next few days to say that you should hope you're getting more work for that amount of money. But what is it? They pay really for, I mean, they make it all for nothing.
Let's just hold it for a second. So, I think you brought up a very important point is the value.
Yeah.
I mean, today, if you look at Australian Aboriginal art from, especially some of the great names now from Western Australia, the marketing of that has created a value
Yeah.
across the world.
Absolutely.
Indian art or Indian traditional art today is finding a value. So tell us a little bit about how you're able to wrap your head around that, because again, it's like it takes you 1 million times to do something to create muscle memory. So even the humble earthen clay diya, it takes you that kind of
Yeah.
time to be able to do it, but we never apportion a value, or the Banarasi sari or whatever. In this kind of work, even Ladubai's work around the room today, like you're saying, 500 rupees, 1,000, 2,000 rupees.
I think we have not been able to market this. I think in our sort of art world, the modernist artists still hold value. Even the contemporary artists, just barring the 4, 5, 7 big names, they are all still middling around. They're not.
But Jangar Sham was able to break through that to some extent.
I think somehow he got marketed, and I really don't even know how. I mean, I'll tell you, my judgment is that he had a great collector called Mitch Kreitz. Mitch was the one who upped the price every time, one Jangar was sold or whatever it was. And so I'm very happy. And along with the April India Art Fair, Mitch had this huge show at the Habitat, and I saw a lot of red dots on that. And I asked him the prices, and they were, in comparison to the general prices, they were
couple of lakhs at least.
astronomical. And I said, salute Mitch that you've been able to do this, because they deserve it. I mean, why shouldn't they deserve any better?
Sure.
And it's, look at that. Look at that wall. If you just sort of had that one wall in your home, it's just magic.
Geetan, what was the name of the person in Japan who took Jangar and where he died?
That's
No, the guy.
no, he's
Tokyo Hasiba.
Hasiba.
Yeah. Did you want to input Anubhav in terms of the value? How do you create value? Because that's something you've been doing.
So that is always a struggle for us. That's not easy. It's very complicated. Oh, sorry. It's a little complicated always, especially because there's really like no representation with the artists, and typically they would sell it to anyone.
Yeah.
There's no way of like for a gallery to consistently create value in that sense. So a very good case and example is actually the show, which is based on Ladubai's very early works. Started right in the 1980s when she was working with Swaminathan, like when he was guiding all the artists there. And Ladubai comes from very, very humble beginnings, and she actually arrived at the Bharat Bhavan as a construction worker.
All of them actually did.
All of them, yeah.
Arrived there, and
There's a
that's
wonderful story that
Swaminathan kind of gave them this input. So with this show, we've been able to price it in a way which is still very modest, I would say, But then, having said that, it's differently priced from her recent works because these are generally non-replicable in that sense.
They
So I
can
guess it's
replace,
about,
Anubhav, they can replicate anything.
but
You know,
it's the
yeah.
patina on these works which I am
Yes.
hoping cannot be replicated.
Yes, possibly,
So-
yeah, you know, but generally speaking,
Right.
you tell them to paint this today, they'll do it.
Also,
Give them the paper and they will do it even today.
Also,
Yeah.
it's very naive, you know, because you
Yeah,
can
of
see,
course.
because it's the early beginnings. If you see a more recent work, they do not look like this.
Yeah.
But then every artist has a journey and
Of course.
it changes.
And some artists stop their journey once they become successful.
Well, I mean, depends. I mean, Jangar is no longer alive.
I think the tribal artists in India, I mean, how do you talk about valuation? Because even I do have a set of artists that I represent in tribal art. So I feel that it's also about age with them and how we can, like, you know, the moment they become older, then their quantity of production becomes lesser. Not as much as the Indian modernists or the modern art as we call it, but the tribal artists also similarly kind of, you know, become a little lesser in production. So maybe that is a way of judging a valuation or even museums showing them or auctions showing them. So that's how the valuations are coming across today.
Yeah, but auctions are not going to show if they're not going to have value. They're not going to show
Yeah,
anything for
they
a couple of thousand of rupees. Or even if it's a lakh or two, they will not do it.
Actually, Lekha and no story limited, they are showing like
Yeah, you know, but I mean,
Major.
At least no, but I just feel that at least they're showing so people are like looking at it. It's not about, maybe not necessarily the best quality that,
Sure.
that is being shown, but it's there.
Sheila, you had a comment and then we'll go back.
In a little bit of whatever experience I've had, I've felt, and a lot of people have said, there is really no true Indian contemporary aesthetics that has come out in all these years. It's always been categorized as ethnic, traditional, tribal. To be fair, I don't know, I don't think it's really marketing. Marketing comes when the content is clear. Australia did what it had to do, Britain did what it had to do, cultural industries. But India has been, I mean, of course, we are not a single India, there's 70 Indias. So there is definitely a search, even today, for a certain aesthetics which has a genre, which we ourselves accepted for ourselves and the whole world also accepts. So maybe, do you think there's a confusion in that?
I don't know. I don't think we market much for anything. I mean, yes, the market is there for the moderns, but where are our contemporary artists for five of, besides the five of them? There are so many brilliant artists today. How much are they represented in the global market?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. And this thing, and I'm sorry, I mean, in our own country, we have no value for them. If you just read the newspaper 5 days ago or 3 days ago, where the ASI in Delhi has 3,000 monuments.
Yeah.
50 monuments have gone
Disappeared.
missing. When we ourselves have no value for anything, why do you then expect the world to come and bow at our feet?
Isn't that something that arises from here? I mean, this is also coming out of a question, like literally 4 days back, somebody asked, there's a
So,
jewelry commission that said, Khatia has a language, Bantali Papal has a language. What do you think without having the Maharaja language that you can create for India as a new aesthetic language?
So my friend Martan Singh always used to tell us, he said, India is a country of fairs and festivals. It's not a museum going
Not
country.
a museum going country, yeah.
You can produce in India anything today. If you want, you know, you can get a Harappan replica made, and you can get something
Or a
contemporary
Chola
made,
bronze or
or a Chola
whatever, yeah.
bronze, which I will show you.
Yeah.
Which I will show you.
This thing is that particular grain that made that guy buy it for 20,000 is a language that a nation or a civilization or a thought process created. The same guy who was creating something for 5,000, only when he did that particular grain in a particular way, in an aesthetic,
Did it create a value?
that created a value.
Or a value plus.
That's my question. They don't require much of a push. They don't require you to sit down there for hours. You can, which will only help them, which is what I will show you in what we did in the vernacular exhibition. which really created some masterpieces. But if you just even want to sit with them for 15 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, guide them a little bit. And they all come. I mean, I'm just not saying that, they're all the greatest of them, but they all come to the Crafts Museum. They all are at that Delhi Haat. Half of them are there, half of them are here. And they change on like every 2-month basis or whatever it is. Anybody is welcome to go and sit and just have a chat with them and just ask them, create a little bit, give them, guide them a little bit that, okay, I'll just buy you a piece of cloth or good paper or something, whatever is their basic craft. It's just
what they
simple
crave
as
is
that.
love and attention and a little
bit of attention.
Yeah,
I'll
and a
just
little
show
bit
you a
of money.
couple of things that are happening today.
Let's go back to the presentation.
Yeah. So this is actually one of my first pieces which I bought, which was when you was talking about forts. Aman, O.P. Jain and myself, we started something called Karma. Karma today is the fashion store. It was never meant to be a fashion store. It was really meant to be for crafts and arts. And the first exhibition that we had there was Olivia Fraser, Jangar, and Muzaffar Ali. So these Jangars, I think, I don't know, 2 or 3 or whatever it was, and there were not that many then. I think he had just about started. To paint. So there was, I don't know, I think Aman either got to know through Mr. Ashok Bajpai or through Swaminathan.
Ashok had introduced them, na Bharat Bhavan at that point.
Yes, but the story of this is also amazing. How did, as you were saying, that they were construction workers. Yes, when Bharat Bhavan was being made, I think Swaminathan, when he was asked to take charge, he was very against this hierarchy of the urban artists against the artists who work with the living traditions and things like that, and he wanted to include them all. So there was, I'm not saying a little bit of friction, but they had to figure it out properly. At that moment of time, there were no artists who you could say that they were artists of living tradition. Because they had no thing. All that they did was painted on the floor and painted on the walls and painted inside their homes. He got students from, Swami got students from the Madhya Pradesh art colleges.
The art college in Bhopal.
Yeah, there and maybe other colleges, wherever it is. He sent them all around, Bhopal and elsewhere to say that, find some artists. And apparently, this is what Jyotindra was telling me. He said, in one corner of a wall, there was one Hanuman painted. And some of that art group turned around and said, ye acha hai. They went to Swami, they said, please come and see this thing, see this thing. And I think Swami liked it. He said, acha, ye kaun bana raha hai? And they turned around and said, oh, there's this young guy called, then they tried to find out the name. He was actually breaking stones to make the road. And when he was asked that, you paint? He said, what paint? He said, I don't paint. So he said, will you? He said, but I don't know how to. He said, I just help my mother paint walls whenever she's redoing it. So I just go help and do something or do something on the floor. So he said, okay, I'll teach you. Then slowly he started to teach. And because Bharat Bhavan had different departments, they had the graphic department, they had the sculpture department, they had this thing. So that's why I think Jangar, of course, then learned quickly, and he was given paper, and then he was given, of course, brush and paint, and he started to slowly paint on paper. But then he also had the opportunity to go to the print department, and slowly he got his cousins and other brothers and everybody involved in the whole thing. So he had his own little atelier. He started to grow. So here's the whole family of Jangar. This is another Jangar work. And this is, on the left is his daughter, Japani. And she was called Japani because she was born when he was in Japan. Yeah. And the one on the right is his son, Mayank. Then I experimented. This is one of his cousins, Jangar's cousin called Dilip Shyam. And I said to him, okay, now enough of paper and all of this. Will you try another material? And he said, yes, I will. So I actually got him stainless steel plates. And I said, will you try and paint on this? And this is what he produced.
So this is on stainless steel?
This is on stainless steel.
Wow.
And this was another artist called Ramesh Thikam. And again, the normal story, you know, I mean, they paint like this on the left, as you see, with the very normal works. And he was sitting at the Crafts Museum, he and his wife, and I said to him, I said, please, can you just not make 10 figures on one work and not all these dots, dashes, there's so many that I have, so can you try something very simple? So like in about 15 minutes, he produced the work on the right.
Wow.
By the time I'd taken a round of the little bazaar, he came back running to me, he said, I've made it, you know. Will you please come and see it? So I said, okay, I went and saw it. I said, theek hai. I said, you make this. Then he said, nahi, taiyar hai. Take it away. So I bought it and took it away. Then I said, okay, if I bring you canvases, and if I bring you acrylic paint, because that's what they paint with, they can't do oils, of course. So I said, if I bring you paint and if I get you canvases,
Will you do that?
will you promise that if you make only one figure on one canvas? Because otherwise it will be like a village story out there, you know, which he did. So I got him, I don't know, 12 canvases or some such thing, huge canvases, and this is what he produced.
Wow.
And these canvases are 6 by 4 feet. So from a A4 size paper to go to this size, and just literally I gave him paints and they painted on their own, you know, whatever it is. The husband
So
and wife.
scale for them is not an issue. They can go from
They
wall
yeah.
down to a small piece to back to a whatever.
And it was funny, like I thought that they'll take some time. They're saying they generally are at the Crafts Museum for 1 month. I think in about 2 weeks' time, I got a call to say that we finished all the works. And I'd given them 12 canvases.
Wow.
I said, really? Acrylic?
Acrylic.
So,
I suppose it's like Hussain Saab, na? Between waking up at 6:30 and before he went to his first chai, he had finished 12 canvases. And I'm like, hello. He said, nahi, abhi chalte hai party.
yeah, so then I got all of these. Not all of them are great, you know, but at least, 5, 6 are quite nice. And this is Bhuri Bai, who's Bhil artist. This is a traditional work that they do. And I'll show you some new interesting. And Maharashtra, these are also very interesting stories. This is Varli. Varli is an art form which was never done by men. Right. It was only by women. And
the stories were women-centric.
Yeah, and they were inside the Kobar Ghar, which was a central little house where they again changed the storyline according to the season, fertility and everything. The same genre, same storyline that others would have also in villages. And apparently, from what I was being told, that Jivya Shom, who was the first male artist, who said that, you know, that he would, he was the first male artist who actually started to paint. How and why was because he was orphaned. When he was a child, about 3-4 years old, he had an older brother who was about 9-10 years old. The older brother ran away from the village, and this young boy was left all alone. So the women of the village pretty much adopted him, and whenever they would go to paint, they would take him in with them, and he would just hold the coconut shell in which they had the rice paste. So he saw them work from age 3-4.
Wow.
And 8-14, apparently, he started to do his own work. So he's the first male artist. And Jyotendra keeps saying he's the most important because he broke from the tradition. And
Which
then
is something that Mayur then took over.
And this is also something, so unfortunately, I never met him, but I spoke to him a couple of times. And I said to him, okay, again, you know, the traditional ones that you all do with the red oxide kind of a thing and the mud, gobar it used to be technically, but then they of course moved to mud. And I said that, if I send you some paper, will you just do it for me on that paper? So I found all these handmade paper in silver, gold, copper, black, white, all of this. I think I sent him about 2 dozen sheets. And I said, do please
use this.
and do whatever you want to do, you know. So some of them have been done by him, some of them have been done by his sons.
So,
Because they all used
so
to
in
work
many
with
ways,
him.
the intervention came from you in a way.
Yes,
in a
of
matter
course,
of
yeah,
speaking.
yeah.
You intervened in the process.
Yeah, but then they did this only when I asked them to do. They went back to doing whatever they were
They had
doing
to do.
otherwise.
Yeah.
So this is a very interesting thing. This is COVID, and this is a guy called Amit Dombare.
This is during COVID.
During COVID. And he would send me these images to say, oh, madam, the same thing, you know, as you were saying, Sanjay, that, you know, they were so desperate.
So desperate.
That they didn't know what to do. And so I bought a couple of works and this thing, and then he said, Kiji, main kya karun? I didn't do something, this thing. So he sent me this thing, and on my phone, I would mark out these areas. I said, I can't have these anymore. I've got about 20 of these. I can't have more.
So your green marking.
So
that
my
you've
green
done.
marking is there. And then he would send me drawings. And then I marked out again to say that, you know, cut out this little circle and cut out one other human figure and whatever it is. And then you see what's the end product.
Wow.
And similarly, I did for one more he did, I think. Yeah, this was just those things. So that's the drawing he sent me. And this is all on the phone.
So do you
This
see
is on the
this,
WhatsApp.
So do you see this as intervention or evolution?
I don't know. Whichever it is, I enjoy it.
We have to
They
ask
enjoy
Rubina
it.
at some point of time how she views this process.
I'm
Co-creation and engagement. It's the energy of the two people which comes together to create.
Now you're giving us a direct create line. Ki bring people together
But
to
the magic only happens when two people meet, connect, and collaborate.
collaborate.
Well, you'll see we collaborated more, I tell you, I mean this thing, not on this, but other things. Come on, we'll have to go through this quickly. So this is just a Naga shawl, which the warriors wear.
First hunt.
Yeah.
First hunt.
From Orissa, this is also again, so here is traditional Orissa Patachitra. And the next one, Rakesh intervened for this in the 1990s when he took these Patachitras to Festival of India. This is their traditional thing that they wear in this village called Kotpar. And I just must tell you, this is a lady who's sitting at the Crafts Museum today.
Wow.
She's there now. She's working with this jharu stick, which she splits into two. That's gehu, that's wheat.
Wheat.
And she makes these, you know, long lines of wheat sticks, and then she folds them around and she makes them into those gods and goddesses and whatever else it is. And I was asking her, I said, what do you do with these gods and goddesses? Who buys them? And they said that in November they have a festival in their village, and they do, it's the same sort of thing from the storyline of Jagannath Puri is translated into their own tradition. And everybody prays for 1 month in the month of from November to December, and a lot of people then buy this. So in any case, do we have that whole? Yeah. So now she's made this, and I've told her, I said, as many as you make now, I said, I'm just going to buy the whole lot. She's going to sit there for a month.
So this is again gehu.
This is gehu.
This is gehu
Yeah.
on the jharu.
On the jharu stick.
Wow.
I mean, I can't believe how, and she's sitting there, I mean, you know, doing this the whole day. She's just looking at it. I went there yesterday and she said, ki, oh, bahut thand hai, abhi mere se nahi kaam hoega.
Wow.
This is from Punjab. This is just Panchaganga. So this tradition again has gone because Punjab no longer has the 5 rivers. So they stopped making this. This came from, you know, another kind, which is chope, which is from the maternal side would give to the
boy's
bride
side, yeah.
to be. Rajasthan, this is Mahavir Swami. This is a painting that the miniature he did like about 20, 25 years ago, and this is what he's doing on the right now. This was
Well, his Hanumans are just absolutely astonishing.
yeah, he's quite extraordinary.
His
But
Hanumans are stunning.
his hand is superb. He's from Bikaner. And this is not resist dye, but this is the gold, what do you call it, khadi. And these are blinds. This is amazing. This is an artist, I mean, not an artist, but he was an embroiderer called Gulshan Rai. It's a Pichwai. Everything in this is embroidered, including the background. The blue is not silk. It's silk, but it's embroidered on. And then he's embroidered a lot of the rest of it on it. And this is one young guy, again, I met at the museum. And that horse is absolutely superb, I must say. And so now we come to the exhibition. So this was a process that we did over 3 years. We had Annapurna Garimali, who's an academician. She had come, and she returned back from Columbia, very interested in working with the vernacular art. And we thought that, we would do something contemporary. Of course, the tradition sits where it is, but how to push that boundary? She did an open call. There were 300 artists who applied. It was a very simple line that they were asked to do, which was a dream project, because we couldn't complicate it further. So they did this dream project, and out of that, we chose about 75 artists. And
These are Indian as well as international.
no, only India. Oh, no, nothing from outside. And we commissioned them, and I think a lot of the works were commissioned. Some already I had. So we did 2 exhibitions, and the exhibitions each one ran for about 6 months each. So we did one whole year of vernacular art in the contemporary. And you just see, so this is Bawa Devi. As you remember her, if you remember her doing the whole story on Kulkarni, and she does all the traditional stuff. So, Nag is, yeah, so Nag is very much a part of their whole folklore. And we said to her that, if you want it, we do the Nag, but do it on a certain scale. So these are 7 foot or 8 foot long.
Wow.
And they are not, they're painted, but they're cutouts. So you have to hang them.
And it's cloth or paper?
A canvas.
Wow.
But they're huge. Yeah, they are absolutely huge. So this is my other story of Ganga Devi Bhatt. I had gone to Karnataka once, and there was this institution called the Hastakala Parishad. I think it was supported by the Manipal family, and there was a gentleman called Mr. Shenoy. It was to be like the Crafts Museum in Delhi, but he decided that it was to be his private museum. He used to possibly get the money from the Manipal, the family money, the pies.
The pies.
Yeah, Mr. Pai. And I think he got land from the government or whatever. But he would never allow anybody to come in. He pretty much locked up the institution. My friend Martha Singh said to me, if you're going there, I'm going to call him up, and please go see this place. And I saw some, wandered around, beautiful Havelis he had reconstructed, fabulous collection. I think he had a huge collection of the blocks of Ravi Varma. For the print, what he used for the print. So much, Tamil, Kanchivaram saris, Tamil paintings, every Tanjore paintings and everything. There was one room where he had these, not exactly this kind of a thing, but masks. Huge, tall masks, wooden masks. So I kept asking him, I said, well, where are these from? He said, no, you people can't reach there because, this is from Bastar, and I had gone on a journey, and this was, this is all Naxalite area, this, that, and the other. So it just stayed in my mind, and I'd taken one picture. And I sent that picture to Ganga Devi Bhatt, and I said, Aap Bastar se aate ho. I said, please find me somebody who can make these masks. And she said, "Acha, मैं ढूंढती हूँ, पता नहीं कोई है, नहीं है, whatever it is." Never mind, she found this guy called Sanse Kashyap. So I said she got, we had mobile phones by then. And I said to her, I said, ठीक है मेरी बात करा दीजिए. So I asked him, I said कि क्या बनाएंगे? बोले कि हाँ मैं एक बना करके भेजता हूँ. So he sent one. Now these are about, I think they're about 5.5 foot or 6 foot, 5 to 5.5 foot tall. Okay, he sent me one. Then I said, okay, maybe one more. He said, नहीं मैं और बनाता हूँ. And I kept asking him, but how many am I going to buy? नहीं, madam, ले लो. So okay, he kept sending, I kept going. And I asked him, I said, what are these for? Are they, warding off evil? Where do you place these?
What do you worship them?
Do they worship? They're very peculiar. They've got lizards as eyebrows. They've got some scorpions on the nose.
And on the lip.
And the lip
tongue as well.
and the tongue and everything. नहीं हम घर के बाहर में अपना रखते हैं. So he's never been able to give me an explanation. But then ultimately I had to stop him to say that, I'm sorry, I can't buy more because these are already large enough. And I don't think he even cured the wood. So
they're split now,
they're splitting also, but it's okay. It's part of the story. So yeah, this was her contribution to getting me this fantastic guy from Bastar. And then I went to this, one time my friend Rahul Jain and I went to a trip between Mangalore and Udupi, just that area. And I think I'd met my friend George Michel, who said, oh, you're going there, you have to go and see this temple. What temple? So he said, no, this thing, Mekakattu. So, okay, we go in there, and it's a temple of bhutas. The spirit. So these are all man, animal, everything put together. Sculptures which the local people worship. They have these grass as boots, and then they have
spirits, souls.
Yeah, the spirits, and then they also do these dances where they have these grass skirts, and they dance.
Sort of like a Thayyam tradition where they
Thayyam is very different. Thayyam is very formal.
Yeah.
This is wild. They just sort of have a lot to drink, and then they have these grass skirts, and then they do this whole thing like in a circle and things like that, and then just go for. And then in the side, this thing, in a really like a shed, there were all these sculptures lying. And I asked, there was nobody there in the temple to start with. There was one person we found, and we asked him, what was this? So he turned around and said, no, these have been destroyed. They are defective, so that's we've put them away. So I said, who makes these? So they gave me the name of the person, and Rahul and I went trotting off to meet that person. But he was not making these. He was making furniture. So I said, Acha, so can you make these? He said, हाँ, वो तो तब होता है ना when they asked me to redo something in the temple. So then we got a whole lot of them made, and this is what we have. I think maybe one or two more we have.
So these are again wood?
They're wood, they're painted.
Stunning.
This is a lady from Karnataka again. Is she from Karnataka? Is she from Karnataka? Yeah. So traditionally they do, paint on these pots and baskets, and then they do the mandalas as you see sitting on the floor there and things like that. But they also do papier-mâché little dolls. And they also, they're great snake worshippers. So for the exhibition, when we we commissioned her to do, so we said that, do the snakes. So this is on papier-mâché.
And these are lifted?
These are lifted, as they would do in a doll.
Wow. And these are so Mexican. If you go to Santa Fe, you'll have hundreds of these being created in that tradition.
There must have been trade. They must have exchanged things.
With the same kind of design pattern. In Santa Fe, you'd find exactly the same thing.
And this is called the Kalakar. This is again Madhya Pradesh. It's quite a tall sculpture, wooden. I mean, only one of them, I think, turned around and started to work with wood. Not many of them work with wood. This was a homage which Bhaju, Ramesh Thikam, and I think Venkat or Dilip Shyam, all of them paid to Jangar. So they made these 3 panels, which we commissioned, the 3 large panels.
But these are wood.
Wood
The
and
panels
ply.
are.
Yeah, wood and ply. And so they painted on both sides. They came here, they painted. And the painting that you see right at the back on that side, that's Mayank, that's his son. And that's a story about how the serpents twine onto a tree, which is a very, very popular story in their folklore. And then, if I'm not mistaken, is there a helicopter, a plane which is flying on top?
It's titled Jangar's
Flight away from, just what he was doing. And these panels tell Jangar's life story.
Wow.
And then I told Mayank, I said, which is Jangar's son, I said, come on, you can't be painting all the same stuff over and over again. So he said, "Main kya karoon?" I said, okay, go to Delhi. He was in Delhi. I said, go out into the streets and have a look. I said, what do you see? So then he came back and he called me up and he said, yeah, I see lots of tall houses and everything like that. So this is his version. That's his version. I don't know if of India Gate or of Nizamuddin or something like that on the right. No, it's not Humayun's tomb. It's not
Seems
Humayun's
more,
tomb.
yeah.
Some other thing, and then actually there's another one which this thing, but here there are skyscrapers, there are roads. Look at the cars in that.
Yeah.
Look what he's done to them. Checkered cars, striped cars.
Which, if anybody saw the new auto exhibition that was opening, that will open tomorrow, they've created this new BMW which changes color. I mean, it's an electronic thingamajig, so you push a button and you can get checkered car as the veneer, or a black and white and a pink and a gold, and you keep changing it depending on your mood.
In fact, I think we didn't put that image, but there's one in which he's made skyscrapers and he's got a plane which looks like a bird. Which flies out. It's their imagination. This is Bhuri Bai again, and now she's got the cars. Look where the birds are flying. Look at the human beings. Is it according to her the Taj Mahal? So this is her life story, as you were saying.
Those big ones.
They were just construction workers, and Swami found her. I don't know, because this is a whole series in which he's painted Swami coming and telling her that, no, come, and I think that's Swami in the middle, the third figure, Swaminathan, saying that, come and I'll tell you what to do and how to do and whatever it is, and that's how she started to paint. This is another tradition from Madhya Pradesh, which is a tattoo artist, Baiga. And generally speaking, I mean, when they are not very well off, they tattoo their entire body so that, that it looks as though it's bejeweled. And, but then they've brought it down to the art form also. So this is the way it is from the back and the front of a woman. That's how they would tattoo. And this is Amit Tumbare again. This was again when we pushed him and said, that would you be able to make, instead of doing, just the normal strain and village life and everything, can you do something else? And Annapurna was very keen that it was a globe that she wanted to show. We had no idea. We were literally like about a month and a half from opening the exhibition. I didn't know what to do, whether to get a fiberglass, ball made or what it was. I then got an idea. I said, this is the gym balls, those rubber ones. I took one to him and I said to him, अगर इसको फुला देंगे और ये इसमें से हवा तो नहीं निकलेगी? So he said, नहीं, मैं इसको उधर से seal कर देता हूँ उसको उधर से. I said, इसके ऊपर paint कर सकते हैं? Because it's rubber. He said, हाँ, मैं कोशिश करता हूँ. And this is what he made.
Wow. Well, don't display it anymore because the map of India is whatever, you'll go to jail. Sedition. This is called sedition art.
And then there was another lot that he made, the pipes. Are they there? Yeah,
Yeah,
these
these
are
are
revolving
stunning.
pipes. This is his version of falling off the bridge, I think, from that Kurla, when you go across, not the fancy new bridge in Bombay, but you know what would happen, accidents would happen, people would fall off, their boats going in the sea, and things like that. So these were pipes which
Stunning.
we had also, he worked on. And these are just cement pipes.
Beautiful.
This is a guy
Tarshito.
from Italy, Tarshito.
Who was here 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he was here. So I have quite a few of his, and this is his story of the Jagannath Yatra, the 3 Rath. And then we got hold of this Bihu Maharana for the vernacular exhibition. And there's a lot of water around in Orissa, and they all do have their boats. And this is pretty much like a half a life-size boat, you know, which
Wow.
he made and painted. From Rajasthan, a guy called Usman Tirandaz. Unfortunately, he's died now. He's a miniature painter. And he was making these works. Again, Mitch Kreit's discovery. And he was making these works. He had them on some horrible, shiny
Paper.
you know. So I said to him, I said, no, not this, please. So then he just used, I think, the architectural paper. And it's a mythical forest. And there's actually a boar in there which looks so much like Dura.
Wow.
It's quite amazing. Nathdwara, I did this project with, come?
Come. We're just finishing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, we're just finishing. We're just at the end. So this is Desmond Lazaro, and I did this project with the Nathdwara painters. And we told them again to do something new, and this is a courtyard, and you know, you just see people with mobile phones, painting, this, that, and the other in the court of Nathdwara. And then there was the next one is, this is the story on, this is a fascinating story. A friend of mine from Tamil Nadu has sent me 2 of these works. They're about this big. And he said to me, and to Anupam also, you know, my son, that you must work with this guy, Radhakrishnan, and he's doing fabulous work. So I put this out in my living room when I had my home in Sundarnagar, and some academician came and picked it up and turned around, looked at it all around. Chola.
Chola bronze.
Beautiful. Of course, I knew what it was. So I said, great. I said, if people can think this is Chola, then that's it. You know, I'm going to order. So then we just go. So the whole Natya Shastra, the 108,
Wow.
I got done. And we installed it like this for the exhibition. This is not a good picture.
So the funny thing is, one year when the Chola bronzes went to the UK to RAA, Gauri, Lekha and I lined up for some, I think it went around the block, even if you had booked your thing, to be able to go and see the 26 heads that they'd taken. And the same ones when you go to the Chennai, you know, the Chola,
Yeah.
you know, the guy will come on his cycle. First you have to go and say, please, Kolo. Come on his cycle, open the lock. It's filthy as hell. But the same thing translated into a different perspective is...
Yeah, so it was a joy. I got the 108 from the Natya Shastra. This is a normal Sanji work which people do in Mathura, Lucknow also. And we got then this thing which is pretty much a full-scale Char Darwaza made in Sanji, paper cut.
So
I thought we would end with...
So last question, Lekha. All of this work that you've collected, 40 years or 45 years or whatever. So in the West, you would be able to give this as a donation to a major museum if you haven't created your own museum. So what's the legacy and how are you thinking about it?
I really don't
You
know.
used to have the space in Noida, but now what?
Gurgaon,
What's next?
no.
Gurgaon, sorry.
Yeah. Big dilemma. You really can't give it to any institution around. There is none. you know. So let's see what happens. Something will happen. Otherwise,
And is it accessible for academics to come and research and
so
see the work?
all our catalogs are online. We've got every catalog online except for one, which is the exhibition we just did before COVID, and we have to struggle with, you possibly know him, you know, Anand. So we'll have to struggle with that catalog, and we are waiting for the end of it. I mean, doing a couple of things, and then we'll get to him. But otherwise, all our catalogs are online. Anybody is willing to, happy to come and ask us. If they want to see something particular, we are very happy to show. Yeah, and we try and do small little programs now, educational programs. We're trying to actually work out a proper curriculum.
So you're not going to convert one of the Hindustan Motor factories into
No,
the
that's
museum?
gone. And in any case, that's Calcutta. And I don't live in Calcutta. I live here. Yeah.
Any questions? Do we have time? Just a couple, and then we can, anybody?
We can talk when we
Over
have
this thing.
yeah.
So thank you, Lekha, for this
Thank you.
amazing journey and collection. Thank you for putting this together.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anubhav.